No worries. Thank you so much, Glenn. That was a very comprehensive. I think you went through so many topics and you provided a vision of the innovative solutions from a supply chain perspective. It's not just the process of the brewing, but also considering, the supplies, the packaging, and the future emerging challenges. So thank you so much for sharing this. And just because we are a little bit tough in the time, and we want to be responsible with our attendees, I would just send one question, direct one question to each of you. However, I want to mention that in the chat we have had so many questions, and really I am impressed of the amount of interest regarding fires and the impact in the lupulus. What are the alternative grains that would provide added value for beer quality, the non-alcoholic? So for the attendees, I will try to ask all of those questions afterwards. So maybe we can have that in our website. But now I want to ask, well, first I'll start with Charles. It's been a privilege listening to you. You have both been protagonists and leaders in the emerging brewing scene in California. So I want to ask you, what would you advise emerging microbrewers that are starting today in this business? So what would be your vision and your personal, advice for these people that many of these are today present in this audience, virtual audience?
All right. Well, my advice very much would be to consider quality as the number one issue. The customer will only come back. A successful quality is a product that does not come back to a customer who does come back. So you want repeat purchases. And the only way that's going to happen is if they like your beer and if your beer meets their expectation. So it should not vary, it should be consistent. And also, as I think I alluded to when I talked about Jack McAuliffe, his business model, he didn't brew enough beer. He just didn't have enough income to sustain his business. So a lot of people find it very romantic to have, bijou breweries producing special products on a small scale. But unless you produce enough beer and it's available and easily accessible by the customer, then you're not going to succeed. So there's got to be a good business model. Quality is very much a part of that. And I personally urge people to celebrate beer and celebrate in terms of materials. In terms of materials that are available, not gimmicks, but yes, consider locally available raw materials and celebrate your local environment.
Great. Thank you so much for that inspiring answer. So now I have a question for Glenn. There's been a lot of traction here in the chat regarding the non-alcoholic. And I want to understand, what do you think regarding the entry of new varieties of beers, such as the non-alcoholics, the gluten-free, that are more aligned with healthy lifestyle trends? How do you think this can be a threat to the traditional beer market? And how do you envision these categories will grow and gain more demand? Or how would this evolve in California in the following years?
I think the breweries operate in an environment where there's constant change. People are looking for new food types. As soon as there's a new mobile phone, they want to get the latest and greatest. So I think breweries are challenged with how do they stay in touch with people and their interests in not just life in general, but how do they view in the environment, sustainability, all those sorts of platforms. They also have to understand that there's a changing demographic of consumers and what are consumers looking for. So we have this younger generation that is interested in alternative foods, not just eating a burger and some chips, When they go to the pub, they're looking for other healthy alternatives in food. And I think they're also looking for healthier alternatives with alcoholic beverages as well. And I think beer is in a position much better than any of the other alcoholic beverages because it can actually vary its alcohol content without a lot of impact on flavor. So we can actually have low alcohol beers with huge body and flavor and not distract from the quality of the beer. Whereas you don't see a lot of low alcohol wines or low alcohol spirits. So I think the beer industry is in a good position to provide that diversity for people. They shouldn't see it as a threat. I think, as Charlie mentioned, that if you look at the total composition of beer, if it's not the healthiest beverage in the world, it's damn close to that. And if we take the alcohol, we reduce the alcohol or take it out, it has to be the most healthy. So I think this is an opportunity for brewers to think, how can they still make their normal beers they make, but also potentially introduce a low or no alcohol beer. It gives us alternatives as well, because we can go and have a beer at lunchtime and not be at risk with drink driving laws or going back to work because we've actually had a beer, but it hasn't got any alcohol. So I think there's other positives, and people think, oh, I don't want to drink that. I think some breweries are making some very delicious no alcohol and low alcohol beers, and I think it's something that's sort of, it's recycled, but now I think it's got a more permanent footprint in our industry.
Thank you so much for sharing your vision. It's really interesting, and actually it's one of the most named topics in the chat. So I think that provided a great understanding of what can be the opportunities and actually not looking at these emerging products as a threat.